Hi everyone. Let me got it. Hi everyone. I'm Femi Lewis. I am the owner of Femi Writes. I am a content strategist and content creator. I support service-based entrepreneurs, much more than products. I just love people that do services and helping them find ways of creating messages that really resonate with their audiences. So that's my niche. So today we're going to be talking about what I call the soul work, the work that you have to get done before you can even start creating that content strategy and the plan and the actual content that your audience will see. So let's get started. To my share screen. Okay, let me move this up. So we're going to talk about build your online presence, 5 brainstorming exercises to develop your content strategy. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. So this is me, Femi. I coach, I create, and I edit. You can find me at FemiWrites.com, Instagram, Femi Writes, and also on LinkedIn, Femi Lewis. And I fully believe that dope content empowers entrepreneurs. You will see that I sprinkle, that's part of my special sauce. I sprinkle certain words in throughout my messaging everywhere, dope, fresh. I'm a big lover of golden era hip hop, and that will resonate in all that I do. Okay. So if you're interested, just so that you don't have to take a ton of notes today, I put everything in a free workbook, 5 brainstorming exercises to develop your content strategy. So if you need it, you can scan the QR code. I will also put it at the end of the presentation as well. So I'll give you a second if you need. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So quick icebreaker. Like I said to you before, I am a big fan of golden era hip hop. I was made and raised, and now I'm raising children in the Bronx. And like this year is a big year for hip hop. It is the 50th anniversary. So my little contribution to that is uh, believe the hype or not. So this is the same as fact or fiction, true or false. So I'm going to give you a couple scenarios and you can just shout out whether you believe the hype, whether you agree or not. If you don't believe the hype, then say don't believe the hype. That is the same as saying you disagree. Okay. So here we go. A content strategy is the same as a content plan. Do we believe the hype or we don't believe the hype?
I'm gonna go with no.
Okay, so don't believe the hype. Anybody else? Nobody?
I'm gonna
Okay.
say
Yes,
no.
no, it's not. I don't believe the hype. The strategy
Uh,
is the overall, and the plan is the detail. I was
okay,
muted, sorry.
got it. No problem. Here's the next one. Understanding your brand is the first step to building awareness, interest, and trust with your audience. You believe that hype or not?
Leave the hype.
Yes,
Absolutely. I'm
believe.
I'm really happy that you believe that. I have had arguments about this. If you want to make money online, just post and send out those emails. The money will come.
No,
Don't believe
No.
that.
Oh, I wish it was that way.
Leave the hype.
Right? AI writing tools will make the content creation process obsolete. Yeah.
eventually, yes. Eventually, but
No.
it has to be edited. It needs some human, yeah,
Mhm. So we'll get
input.
into that. And if you come to WordCamp US, I'm gonna do a presentation on that idea. So posting on social media daily will help you make sales.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
I think
Okay.
Depends
so.
on the following.
It
Okay.
can't be your only strategy, but it absolutely is part of it.
Right. All right. So let's get into it. It's good that we all have the same understanding that we need strategy, that we need to be thinking about our audiences, and we really need to be considering the messages that we create around our brand. So let's get into discussing this idea of strategy and what I call the soul work. So before we do that, where are you falling, if you are, because maybe you're not, where are you falling short in developing online content and why? Anybody can shout something out.
Consistency.
Okay,
Fresh ideas.
Having the time.
fresh
Having
ideas.
the
I like
time.
that. Time, consistency, fresh ideas. Anything else? Those
Putting
seem
a
to
lot
be
of
the,
content,
huh?
putting a lot of content out there. I find like a lot of people that get engagement have to put 7 to 10 posts a day. Whereas if you only put one, you don't get as much engagement. And it depends on your priorities, what's important and what is the most important thing to do.
Right. So I mean that idea of having the bandwidth to post, I mean that's something that you want to think about as you expand. Like, do you continue to do it on your own, or do you pass it off to somebody, create the budget to pass it off onto somebody else? But before we get to that, let's just talk about this idea of online presence and why we need it. So I always think about websites, social media, email lists as needing a constant synergy, right? They need to be connected to each other so that you are building your credibility as a business. You're able to use your email and your social media to generate leads, establish relationships, and then, of course, make your money. And so you need all three of these components actively working together. And that is going to be the heart of what you do in your business. Your content strategy has to be aligned with your business strategy. And without any of these, you're going to be falling short. So this is what I've come up with. I call it the SPA method. And it will allow you to reach your audience, build awareness, and make those sales. So the first thing you want to do is create your strategy. And then from the strategy, you'll do your plan, you'll produce your content, promote it if you're putting out blogs or video content. And then at the end, I typically tell clients you should be looking 30, 60, and then at the end of the quarter at your analytics and what's really working and what's not working. And then you rinse and repeat that same SPA cycle over again. So this is what I've come to realize about strategy and why it's so important. It really does give you clarity, right? It's like you sit down, you create your goals and your objectives, you come up with some big idea, and then that allows you to carry through with at least 12 weeks of content that you need to create for your business, and then promote it, and then have something to look at in terms of analytics. So there have been times I've talked to business owners, and I'm like, okay, so what when you looked at your analytics on your email or your social media or even your website, what's it telling you? And they say, oh, well, I don't really have a website up yet, right? I'm just relying on social media. Well, then that's how the online presence starts to falter, because if you're only based on social media, we know from what we've all said, if you're not posting all the time, then the algorithm is not going to pick you up to constantly be getting a ton of analytics, and you're leaving money on the table. And we know that that space doesn't belong to you the way that a website does, or an email list that you pay for. So that's why it's important to have all three of those components within your strategy. So when you think about a content strategy, I want you to think about it in two ways. The first way is looking inward, right? Who are you? What's your mission, your vision? What are your goals and objectives? And what's your story, right? All of those things can allow you to look outward and understand who is your target audience, who is your competition, what industry trends can impact your business, or you as a business can impact the industry, and how can you become unique and more distinct within your industry. If you have any questions, you can always like raise your hand or just, you know, interject and at the end of a slide and say whatever you need. So I always like to distinguish between the strategy and the plan because sometimes people use them interchangeably. So a content plan in production is actionable and tactical, whereas a strategy, like I said, is you looking inward and then looking outward. So it's more like the feel good part. I consider it like self therapy. You got to do it, you got to talk through it, you got to know so that you can make those next moves, right? So posting to social media, sending out your newsletter, publishing your blog or your YouTube videos or your podcast, those all come as a result of a plan and a production, right? And it's something you do to move your business forward in its mission. So in order to do that though, these are the things you have to do first. And I call it the necessary soul work, right? So you have to look at the uniqueness of your business, right? I was talking to somebody that cleans the other day, and she was just like, I'm just a cleaner. And I said, you're not just a cleaner, right? You come to the table, the way that woman can make your house look and feel and smell with $1 jar of Fabuloso is amazing, right? Like I can't do that. So that's what makes her unique, her understanding of what tools to use and when and where in your house. I never thought about. Identify your target audience. Who specifically are you trying to meet the needs of and why? What is your direct and indirect competition doing in their business? What is their messaging? And what stories do you need to develop or understand about your business so that you can move forward? So the first thing we're going to do is define you, the entrepreneur. And for the next couple exercises, I do have like a short case study, a business strategist that I worked with to help build some web content. And so I'm using her because she was really interesting. She has a YouTube channel, she plays a guitar, she does all of these things, but then she's also this really down to earth, let's get shit done, excuse my language, let's get it done type of business strategist, right? So I want you to think about this. Who are you in your personal life, right? What are your professional accomplishments? And how do these parts of you allow you to create a unique business? So I'll use myself as an example. I told you I am a Gen Xer. I was born here in the Bronx. I've lived here most of my life. I am a writer. I've written 4 news publications, and then I became a high school teacher. Then I got married, became a work from home mom, and now I run this business, right? And my business and my personal life are very interspersed. So work for me stops at 2 o'clock and might not resume again till 7 because between 2 and 7, I'm picking up children and doing homework and running to track. So my personal life is a big part of how and why I run my business. But my professional accomplishments allow me to stand there in front of you and talk about these wonderful things, right? So that's how I would put it all together. Who I am in my personal life, my professional accomplishments, and how do they allow me to run a unique business? So this is the woman I'm talking about, Kim Eichhoff. She's a business strategist. She's a business coach and strategist. She plays the guitar. She enjoys conflict resolution. I don't know very many people that enjoy conflict resolution, but she spoke about it when I had my interview with her before I started writing website content for her. You know, the way that she talked about it, she said, you know, when you get to unpack a problem between 2 groups of people or understand why a team can't work, then you can start to piece it all back together. And I said, oh, okay, got it. So I want you to do the same thing. I want you to put yourself in my shoes or Kim's shoes. And I want you to take a minute because I think do we have enough time, Michelle, for people to kind of go through the steps?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes just to consider these questions. And then if I could get someone to share out at the end, that would be great. So I'll just turn off my screen for 1 second while you answer these questions. Still working or you need some more time?
I think we can probably get started.
Okay, cool. So does anyone want to share out? Okay, cool. Joseph?
I'll go for it. I did it quick. So in my personal life, I am action oriented, fun. I like the outdoors. I like the beach, like catching up with friends. Summer, not winter. My background is I am a senior network engineer. I'm a technical lead. I worked in satellite communications, so very strong technical focus. And I'm also an entrepreneur, and I help people like customer strategies and how to get engagement and how to write content in addition to making web pages that are converting. So my strength are the technical skills because I secure the WordPress websites, I optimize them. And a lot of the time the people that come to me, the WordPress websites are not secure, are not optimized for performance. So that is my unique offer that I do because it's not just the website. And I also do basic search engine optimization and writing content. So it's like a whole package of online presence instead of just getting a website.
Nice. I love that. And you really did position this idea of your uniqueness and your approach, and I appreciate that. So make sure you hold on to this. I don't know if you already have this in any of your content, but this is great stuff for you to consider sharing.
Thanks.
So now I want you to describe the business. Now, this is the hard, sometimes this is not easy for people, right? Because they feel like, oh, well, I have a cleaning business, I'm a hairstylist, I make websites. That's like the overarching title, but there's something more in there that we have to do. So I say you got to mind your business or no one else will, right? So think bigger about the service or product that you provide. I am a content strategist because I understand that me writing a one-off blog post for you is not really going to help your business move forward in the way that it needs to. But if I step back and I do an hour and a half of an interview with you where we're talking about brand positioning and your target audience and who you are, that will open your mind up to think about your business a little bit differently and the people that you want to service a little bit differently. So, I want you to think about the product or service that you provide and why, right? So I stopped calling myself just a content creator because of what I just said. I realized that people needed that strategy. I realized that people needed to do what I call the so work first in order to then say, I want you to write 12 blog posts for me. Or I'm going to take this information, right? Because for whatever reason, I'm going to take this information from this consultation session, and I can now go on Fiverr with a little bit more understanding of what I want, because I understand my business in a different way. And so the outcome of what I get from a contractor or a freelancer is going to be different. Okay. So I'm going to go to the next slide. This is what I came up with, Kim, based on describe your business. And so you can just, excuse me, look at it really quickly. And understand. So I start with discussing who she is. She identifies herself, and then she identifies her target audience. And then she talks about what she comes to the table with, and switches right back to what clients are going to get if they work with her. And that's key. You want your target audience, if they're not already your client, to think about what are they going to come away from the table with that they don't already have. Okay. So we don't have to spend a lot of time, but this is what I want you to do. Define that product or that service that you have. Say why you do it. And what's unique about this business. The same way we did that first part, like who are you? Now, what's unique about this business? And it could be a lot of different things. Your approach, your voice. I remember for a while I used to work on Upwork, and I, by and large, would get other African American businesses to do work for me. And I couldn't understand it. Like I would bid on other things. I wouldn't really, sometimes I would get traction, sometimes I wouldn't. But the people that would always invite me to interview on Upwork would be other African American businesses. And so I was talking to a business coach about it, and I was like, I find that interesting. And she was like, well, because you understand the voice, because that's who you are. Right? If somebody is writing a book and they have an African American protagonist, wouldn't you want an African American editor to pull that voice? Okay, I hadn't thought about it in that way. But these are things that you have to think about: your voice, your approach, and your expertise, and the way that you deliver that expertise. Okay. So any questions, or does anybody want me to stop and share out? That's fine.
Yeah, I had a question I put in the chat. Is it from the last previous slide? Is it a good idea to add a section in your website about when a client works with you? I saw that you had the steps with working with her.
So typically I would say yes. You can put something like that on your about page, or when you write the benefits on your services pages, that's a good place also to share results. You know, think about it like this. Your audience doesn't need a description of what you do. So back to the cleaning person that I spoke to. I said, we don't want to know what you do in a deep clean. We want to know the results of the deep clean, right? We want to know how it makes us feel, how it's going to change our lives to have a clean fridge or a clean oven, or how it's going to make us feel better about our home. That matters.
So that goes along with the is it AIDA and pause philosophies of like setting up a problem and you're the solution?
Okay. Right, exactly. So just think about it in terms of benefits. Like, what is the challenge? What kind of action? What kind of result could you provide? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see
And
the
Laura, I mean, that's essentially, that's a sales methodology
Mhm.
where, as an example, somebody will come to me about turning a couple of balusters for their whole, their 100-year-old house that they're restoring. And so when I give them their proposal, I always kind of end it with, I look forward to helping you complete your project, and so you can restore your house to its former glory. I mean,
Yeah.
that puts it right in their mind that this is what the end result's going to be. And it eliminates pricing barriers, it eliminates competition and everything else, because they've got it in their mind that you're going to help them complete their project. So I mean that's really, I mean, so if you can put that on your website in a concise manner, that's great. But also, as you're in part of your sales pitch or sales stack, as you're talking to clients, that's you want to kind of build it in their mind that they're enjoying your product or service.
Absolutely. And so all of these exercises are not just good for website content or social media or email, they're good for all of your marketing collateral. Because once you start to unpack these things and really think about who you are and what you bring to the table and who you service, then that will change the way that you approach all of your marketing materials. Okay, so now we're moving on to what's the problem and do you have a solution? So this idea of a target audience, we all know that you have to define specifically who you want to serve so that you can build the like, no, what is it, no, like, and trust, or I always say awareness, like, interest, and trust, right? And it's important that you not think about everybody as somebody that you could service, but distinct people. And so I always ask these questions. What are the greatest needs of your target audience? And what solutions do you provide? And what are the benefits of letting you provide those solutions? So, and I don't have it on here, but you should create buyer personas, like 3 different segments of people within your target audience. So I focus on service-based entrepreneurs, but I deliver in different ways. So like micro entrepreneurs, I do a lot of workshops and I share what I have in that way. I also sell like some kind of plug and play templates for writing if you can't, immediately afford my service. Then I have somebody who's in the middle of somebody that is like, here, this is what I want. I want 24 newsletters over the next 12 weeks because I have this upcoming event. There's someone in between that person that comes to a workshop and pays for a workshop or purchases a template. There's that person in between that's like, okay, I don't want the template, but I can't afford to pay you right now. So then this is something that I have to create in my budget, but there's still somebody valuable for you. So those are like my 3 people that I constantly talk about and keep within my network as service providers. So when you think about your business, think about it in the same way, the solutions you provide and the benefits of letting you do it. And also, I'll add this, what are the costs to your target audience if they don't do what they need to do? Okay. So this is Kim Eichhoff's target audience, and this was a little difficult in our discussion because for somebody that was so established in her brand, she was still kind of wrestling with who she was servicing, and she wasn't seeing a small business as somebody that could be making $1 million. And I'm like, you're not thinking about small business the same way I am, right? There's micro entrepreneurs, people like me that run things from like an empty desk in the house. And then there are people that have multiple employees and they make tons of money, right? So you have to think about who you want to service. And we came to this. We want organizations that are making at least $1 million annually. They want a strong workplace culture because they want to grow and in some cases sustain their businesses. So they need an active team. They need great communication. And what does she provide? She does coaching sessions around these things. She does mindset shifts for teams. And she checks in quarterly to help make sure that people are hitting their marks as a result of these mindset shifts in the coaching sessions. So when you think about your target audience and what they need to do, I want you to define that target audience. So just how I did, and I talked about my 3 personas, and I talked about their problems, right? They all need content, and they need to understand how to create messaging in their businesses. They might not necessarily have the time, just how we discussed time, bandwidth, feeling overwhelmed, not knowing what to do or when to do it, right? But then they might also have added layers. So like the micro entrepreneur might be like, I gotta figure this out because I can't afford to pay somebody. That person in between has to save up the money. And the other person is like, I got the budget, here you go, right? So what solution do you provide? And it's deeper than that surface level. I clean, I create websites. I create messaging for you so that you can service your target audience. And what's the benefit of letting you do it? In my case, I'm dope. That's it. That's all I say to people. I'm dope. If you're in my presence for 10 minutes, you know that. That's why I need to do this for you. But that's the other benefit is I'm a listener, right? And I use all of my skills. I use my skills as a journalist, right? To ask the right questions to get you to understand your business and for me to understand your business. And I'm also an educator. So I think about the end result, right? I think about every session as a lesson. What do I want to achieve by the end of this? What do I want you to know? What do I want me to know? And that's the benefit of me working with you. I'm dope, I'm a teacher, and I'm a journalist. So you think about what you bring to this table and put that together for your target audience. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free. Does anyone want to share anything or have any questions, or can I move on? I guess just go ahead, Michelle.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so here is the next session next thing I want to talk about is direct and indirect competition. And sometimes people feel like, oh, I shouldn't be looking at what the competition is doing. I am, doing fine. But there is a lot that you can learn by looking what other people do. Now, I'm not saying get in this space of analysis paralysis. I'm saying know what they're doing, understand their messaging, and use that to strengthen your unique position. So there are 2 types of competition. There's direct competition and indirect competition. So your direct competition is going to sell similar products and services. They have similar value and quality, and their price is similar, right? Indirect competition is a different product or service, but it's in the same category. So I always use food as an example. So you have fast food, you have pizza, or you can get a hamburger, right? That's like the best thing I could think of. If you had a cleaning service, if it was a different type of cleaning service, maybe you go to an organizer versus a cleaner, right? Depending on what your needs are. You could have this thing be a substitute and it still meets the needs of the target audience. So I always say research your direct and indirect competition, because their messaging is important and it'll further allow you to reach your target audience and consider your brand positioning. So where can you be looking? You could be talking to your customers, or you can do on like your social media. You can do some sort of survey with like a giveaway, like, hey, I have a couple questions. And you just ask them questions to really glean what it is that they like about a product or a service, and how you, and with you in mind thinking of how that's going to benefit you. You could be in Facebook groups to hear what people need. So most of us, all of us here are business owners. So like I'm part of a group called Boss Moms. I'm also in like Black Women Promote Online. And one of the things that is constantly coming up in those groups is women that are home with small children and want something to do to make money, right? And so, hold on one second. Okay. So if I were somebody that wanted to tap into that work at home moms, then that would be the perfect place. And there are people that do these like really scammy posts up like, you want to work from home and make $1,000 a month? Send me a inbox me or whatever. And they get tons of traction. You can be doing the same thing. I'm not saying being spammy or being scammed, but just hang out in Facebook groups or even on LinkedIn and see what kind of conversations are happening within your industry. And that will cue you in to what you need to understand about the direct and indirect competition. You could look at market research reports and look at your and different trends. Okay. So these would be an example of direct competition. I chose plus size because I'm a plus size woman. So these are my favorite plus size brands. They're all about the same price point, give or take. And they, you know, like if I need somewhere to go, I'm probably going to go to Eloquia City Chic first and Lane Bryant last, but they're all in competition for Femi dollars. So I want you to think about your direct competition. I want you to come up with 3 to 5 direct competitors, and you don't have to do this now, but this week, just look online. Think about 3 to 5 direct competitors. What are they saying to your audience? What is it? How is it similar to your approach, and how is it different? And if you find that it isn't too different, then you need to start thinking about what it is that you could do to make it different. Okay. And so the indirect competition, like I said, is something in the same category, but different brand. So I always say if I'm driving northbound on Boston Road and my kids are like, I'm hungry. Well, guess what? Wendy's is right there. I can turn in and I'm getting Wendy's. We are not going to Domino's because that is 3 lanes on the other side. So that's an example of indirect competition. And this is the same thing. I want you to look for indirect competitors within your group. Okay, what do they offer to your target audience? And why are they a good substitute? Why would you be a good substitute for their target audience? And look at their approaches to messaging. Is it similar or different from yours? Okay. So, do I have any questions or comments, or we can talk? We have a little time.
I have a thing I just want to throw out there. So I was listening to, I forget what I was on a call or whatever, and people were talking about that when you like look at what the competitors are doing, sometimes you're just like everybody's kind of following what everybody else is doing. Like, what is your
Mhm.
thought on that? Like, how do you find out the truth versus like
What
everybody's
everybody,
kind of doing what everybody else is doing, and you're not even sure why they don't even know why they're doing it, except they saw someone else do it,
right?
and then maybe that's the right thing, or maybe it's not. What are your thoughts on
So
that?
I say be intentional and ask yourself those questions why. So like I remember when there's a yeah, I forget the name, but it's kind of girly, an email list. I forgot what it's called, but they specialized in making email lists, but these really pretty templates for women business owners. And their idea was you don't need to go to ConvertKit, you don't need to go to MailerLite, you don't need any of these other people because we've all got the prettiness right here, right? But then
Yeah.
when you get in, you see it did at the time, it didn't integrate with WordPress really well. You had to do all of this stuff to get it to work with Squarespace. So it was clunky, but all of these people on YouTube and on social media were like, oh, I can't even remember the
I think I
names.
know the one you're talking about. They do
Yeah,
like
yeah,
email marketing thing. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I just can't remember the name. Well,
And
guess what?
funnels. They do funnels. They like
Yeah.
pretty funnels or something it's called. Something
Mhm.
like
Guess what? I like ConvertKit. I'm sticking with ConvertKit. Why? Because I really feel like it was easy for me to access the information that I needed. I figured out really quickly, like I remember going into MailChimp and feeling so overwhelmed, and I hope I'm not wrong for, I hope this is not a WordPress sponsor, but I just remember other going into other email accounts and feeling like I don't know what to do. And I went into this one and was like, this is it. And so whenever I talk to people, that's what I say. It's easy to access, it's easy to use. And as a small business owner, you need to be able to just open something up and use it. And quite frankly, people don't always care about pretty, they care about substance. So if it's your brand colors, that's good. That's it, right? So that's what I say. Be intentional and consider why it's important, right?
yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
just a comment. I think your approach is really good with the uniqueness, and
Mm-hmm.
also if people are copying each other, you could take what people are doing, but reflect your perspective on it, how you see that thing, and that would also make it your thing, even though you're taking the idea, but you're expressing it in your way of seeing things, which is a different perspective that personalizes it to you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's totally fine to go on the road less traveled. Anyone else? So I have a quick bonus for you then. Um, I used to include this in the presentation and I took it out, but something said just leave it there for tonight. So you've got all of these other things taken care of, and they're really important. I say, especially those last two, if you've already answered the question, spend the next week or so working on your direct and indirect competition and just making a list for yourself and kind of unpacking what it's saying. But this is the other thing, your story. See, once you start to think about that story, then you can really start to think about planning and producing your content. So, business storytelling allows you to share your knowledge and your value and inspire and become memorable, right? So, you think about the story of how you got to this space, Michelle or Emily or Joseph, um, and why it was important for you and what you share with others, right? And that begins to build on the content that you're going to create. So, and it's also going to persuade people to act, right? So these are the 5 stories I want you to have in your pocket. And some of them you've already started to develop based on this presentation. The when and the why of your business, right? So I had always been a freelancer. After I stopped writing and I became a high school teacher, I was freelancing. And then when I went on maternity leave, we were supposed to have someone watch my daughter when she was a baby. And it was actually my husband's grandmother. And she called from Nigeria and was like, I'm never coming back. Yeah, in August. So I have to call my principal and I'm like, look, we've looked, I don't feel comfortable. And she was like, Femi, I could be retired right now. I didn't go back to work till my youngest child was in the 3rd grade. Figure out what you can do and do that and raise your family. And that's what I did. And then I never went back. Right? Because I got so into this and was like, this works. And that was how I started my business. Okay. What's unique about your business? I kept going back to that throughout, but that is very important that you think about what it is that you bring to the table. Okay. How do you deal with adversity in your business? So that's where you start to share with your clients, your target audience, potential collaboratives, how you come to the table and deal with challenges. How do you find solutions? Because that's important as a service-based entrepreneur. What was your aha moment as an entrepreneur? Every time I heard one of my teacher friends talk about some kid with a cell phone and how they threw a tantrum when they had to give in their cell phone, I was like, I don't know if I want to go back. I don't know if I want to go back. And then I had the aha moment one day when I was actually like putting together an article and I said, this is really what I want to do. And that was it. What's the biggest mistake you ever made? I don't know. You've made tons of them, right? That's part of entrepreneurship. But I can't say the biggest one yet, but maybe you do. And maybe that big mistake can help people in your business. So all of those people that didn't use my favorite email software, maybe their biggest mistake is they followed the trail when they should have gone this way, right? So those are the 5 stories that I feel are going to allow you to connect with your audience online. You can use it on your about page, your social media. That's big right now on LinkedIn, people talking about their whys in their business and dealing with challenges, and also in your email, because people are looking for stories. They just don't want you to sell them something, and they just don't want to tip unless it makes sense. So if you didn't get it before, here's the free workbook, 5 brainstorming exercises to develop your content strategy. And if you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer. Yes, thank you, Emily. Yes, I was considering, I was like, should I put it in? Should I not put it in?
I'm glad you did too.
Yeah.
I think I'll just add it back.
I think you should, for sure.
Keep it.
Yeah. So any questions or comments or anything?
Can we please go back to the QR code?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a nice little bonus, the QR.
Yeah.
Yeah, great presentation and really, really beneficial and simple yet deep. And you ask the right questions, which get people to have the right answers, which create the content. I like modeling. So if we follow that process, the answer comes out without you having to think about it. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Well, that's it. If you want to get in touch, this is where you can find me. I'm on Twitter, but I'm still getting used to Twitter or X as it is. It's X, right?
X now,
So
I guess. Yeah, it'll
I have
always
to
be Twitter to me.
Yeah, but that's where you can find me. And yeah, FemiRights.com. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
being here and sharing. Appreciate it so much.
I do too. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And tell us what your topic is for WordCamp US.
So, using AI in the content creation process. So, how can you use it? Because you know, AI is only as smart as you are, right? Or as smart as you approach it, I should say. So, it's going to be a series of exercises that we do around AI and using it at different points of the content creation process
Oh, cool.
so that you get the results you need and want. Thank you, Laura.
I forget about AI sometimes, like, you know, the chat GPT and that kind of thing. And I'm writing, and I wrote an article for Stellar WP, and it had a lackluster title because it was kind of a lackluster. I mean, it wasn't exciting, right? It was very good information, but I couldn't think of, and they challenged me to come up with a better title. So I went right over to chat GPT and I was like, how's this for a title? They're like, we love it. Like, okay, good.
Mhm. So yeah, it's just like anything else. It can be a tactical tool, but and I also adjunct. So like I've had students hand in papers, and you're like, that's AI, and they're like, but so I put in it, but it's not yours, and so we have to understand that it's a starting point, but it's not your finishing point.
Right.
So you know that's what I'm going to be going for. It'll be done by when I have to turn in the slides.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah,
Very
thank you. Can I stick around for the meeting?
Yeah, please do. I am going to stop the recording though, just so we can have general